I'm Kristen Goodrich. I'm one of the professors for the MESH program and teaching the sustainable water course for MESH. I kind of had an interesting pathway to becoming part of the MESH family. I work at the Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve, which is part of a system of 30 reserves and growing around the US that are in place to protect some of our last intact coastal wetlands. And I've been there for about 15 years and manage the coastal training program there. So part of my work is thinking about how we bring research, both that occurs at the reserve, but also in the region, into the hands of people who make decisions about our coastal resources. So a lot of my work involves science communication, science translation, social science, and also thinking about boundary spanning. So how we can at times think about overcoming whether it's interdisciplinary boundaries or other kinds of physical boundaries in the case of the U.S. Mexico border, how we can overcome those boundaries to really affect change and strengthen relationships. I love a lot of a number of aspects of the work that I get to do. I have the privilege to be in community with professionals who have, I think, committed in a lot of cases committed their lives to protecting either places or helping to support communities through some really serious challenges and some really at times challenges that feel intractable. In the case of the Tijuana estuary and the Tijuana River watershed being a tri-national watershed is a very complex uh, environmental challenge. But the kind of exciting part, the part that I love, is to see people get really creative about how to span boundaries, how to be in community with each other, how to navigate conflict, how to really inspire change in both, I think, in both community and environmental well-being. And so some of the most fulfilling and exciting aspects of the work I've been a part of in recent years has been bringing folks together cross border to develop solutions to some really serious challenges. And despite there being chronic pollution and what we're already seeing as impacts as a result of climate change, these these folks that I get to work with are more motivated than ever to see change and to see healthier people and places. And so it's been a real privilege for me to be able to get to witness that and play a role in kind of convening and facilitating those efforts. Often oftentimes I go back to my first memory of of arriving at the Tijuana estuary. I had been coming from the East Coast to be part of an interview process for this position, and I remember arriving. I was working in DC at the time at the Environmental Protection Agency, and so I was very much a part of that culture, which involved, a little bit more formal attire. I think I was wearing a suit, maybe some high heels even, and I arrived at the parking lot of the Tijuana Estuary and could barely walk in because it was, it's full of cobbles. It's a natural it's a natural place, and a visitor center and in a way a kind of a park really for people to recreate in. And so um, I remember kind of stumbling in. I was early because I was nervous, and I was just walking around the building and kind of seeing the place that this building was situated in and realizing that if I had the chance to work here, um, that every day I would have the opportunity to kind of see and be reminded of the extraordinary story of protecting this place for it to become eventually a federally designated research reserve, but also, later to become a wetland of international significance. And I remember just looking all around me in just complete awe, that this place existed, and that it had endured so much and yet still was resilient. And I didn't realize that as I was walking around the building, um, there were other interviewees in the in the building who were kind of, and eventually the team that I now work with, who was the interview committee, was also in the building conducting these interviews, but watching me kind of walk around in just like complete awe. So I think like I still have that feeling every day when I show up. And I think that's just it's evolved a lot. My role has evolved a lot over the years. I've had the opportunity to go back to school to get my PhD, to conduct research, to think about the human dimension of what it means um, to conserve wetlands and to manage a coastline. And now I have this amazing opportunity to get to kind of share that with students through this program, and get to teach a course that I feel, um, reflects my values, and also, kind of incorporates a really interdisciplinary approach, which is all that I've, all gleaned from what I've learned over the years of working in environmental conservation and marine and coastal management. So, yeah, it feels like a constellation of memories over the years, but, that first memory really sticks out for me because it was so palpable, and I still feel that way. Something I've noticed over the last 2 cohorts is just, well, I think an extraordinary ability for the students to connect with each other. This is an online asynchronous graduate program. And so, despite there not being the opportunity to sometimes meet in person and be in community with each other in person, I've noticed just kind of an extraordinary like interest and self kind of, motivation among the students in the cohorts to be in community with each other, across different platforms, and to just be creative about how one might find connection, in an online setting. And so, some of the ways that I've seen students do that is through, meeting outside of the course itself, whether that's on Zoom or in other formats. I've seen some really amazing kind of, work being done together to develop portfolios on the Edge platform. Some advice I guess I'd give is to just to be in communication, like to not let the platform or the online, format be a limiting factor, to see it actually as something that can be really generative and, allow for connection in a different way. And so, in my course, and maybe others, like I host, community chats, which are just an opportunity to get to know each other better, ask questions, bring up, recent events that are occurring related to the course that, folks want to talk about, and maybe relate to what we're learning. And so I guess I would just say, be in communication, however that, feels right to you. And I hope, to that folks don't feel limited in any way by the format, and they're able to see it as just a different way of, communicating and connecting. So, the courses are quick. It's a rapid, it's at sometimes feels like it's at a rapid pace, I know. And so one thing I always recommend is to just be in constant communication, with me and with each other, because, we all want to be in support of each other. And I'm very empathetic about, what it takes to both balance, a life, and to be for some folks also work, and for some folks, families. And so it can be really stressful to hold it all alone. And for students to know that they have support in us as instructors and each other as the cohort, I feel like really makes a difference. And I've seen it firsthand in the ways that some of the exchanges on the discussion boards have evolved into real deep and meaningful, I think, both professional relationships and friendships too. So I think there's a lot of power in connection, um, despite the format. Yeah, thanks so much for visiting me in office hours, and very much looking forward to getting to spend some time with you in class and across the course of sustainable water. So take care for now, and look forward to our time in, I guess, in May.